Hey good people, and welcome back to Stay Tuned Reviews, a place where you can get a well thought out quality review in 10 minutes or less. And because tonight is Friday night, in a few moments you'll get to hear my thoughts and feelings on episode 7 of Ready to Love Potomac. Now I know that most of the fans out there are waiting to talk about this incident between Dakia and Eric, but unfortunately there's not much to talk about. Nevertheless, I will share the good, the bad, and the ugly of tonight's episode. So without any further delay, let's jump right in. The episode starts off with Nephew Tommy at the ladies' lounge. Dakia is talking about the incident, and we get to see that scene that Owen uploaded to YouTube earlier this week. Dakia tells the group that there was an incident between her and Eric in which Eric got physical with her. In Dakia's production interview, she shares that Eric isn't ready to love her and maybe none of the other women on the show, which was a bit overboard if you ask me. How can you believe that a person that you barely know, that they're not in a place to love anybody? But Dakia lets the group know that she's no longer willing to date Eric, and Nephew Tommy vows to talk to Eric about it. Nephew Tommy also informs the ladies that this week their task is to let their ex meet the two men that they have the strongest connection with. And usually with these type of episodes, there's bound to be some foolishness. Nephew Tommy has a chance to sit down with Eric, and as they greet one another, Eric tells Nephew Tommy that he doesn't feel good about the situation. He shares that he found out that he hurt Dakia's feelings, and this is when we get a brief, and I do mean brief, description of what happened between Eric and Dakia. Now, according to Eric, he and Dakia were at an event, taking pictures, and he moves his hands up to get a cozy picture with her. Now, before we can get any more details about what happened, we cut back to Eric telling Nephew Tommy that he isn't ready to love, and he was going to self-eliminate. And to me, this is pretty bogus, because not only were we left in the dark as to what really happened, but this self-elimination comes off more as the show telling Eric that he had to go, but Eric is playing it off as that he had a say in the matter. But Eric leaves, and that's the end of that. On other YouTube channels, there are leaked texts and messages between Dakia and Eric that gives a he said, she said perspective on what happened. But I don't get paid enough to analyze foolishness like this, so let's keep it moving. In the first scene, we see Joy meeting her ex, and the first impression that I had of the guy was that this guy is the complete opposite of Clifton. Laverne is the first to arrive at the date, and he exchanges pleasantries with Joy's ex for a few moments. When Clifton arrives, that's where things get a little interesting. We know up front that Clifton isn't happy about meeting Joy's ex, so Clifton goes on the offensive and asks Joy's ex a series of questions about his connection with Joy. Joy's ex, on the other hand, throws a bunch of subtle passive-aggressive jabs at Clifton related to Clifton being possibly jealous and having unresolved issues. Clifton stood his ground, and Laverne was simply there for the show. After Clifton and Laverne leave, Joy's ex thinks Clifton is the better pick, but also shares that Clifton comes with risk. And if you ask me, this ex, if he's really her ex, still has feelings for Joy, and he's not ready to let go of her just yet. But that's my opinion. In the next scene, Carmen has her ex meet Paul and Donovan. On first impression, Carmen's ex is a strong 50 or 60 years old, just like Uncle Paul. The only meaningful question that Carmen's ex asks the two men is if they think they could keep up with Carmen and her world of being around celebrities. The two men give their answers and leave shortly afterwards. Carmen's ex picks Donovan over Paul because he thinks Paul will be too soft for her. In my opinion, Paul is Carmen's insurance policy in case things with Donovan don't work out. Next, we have Ace and her ex meeting Laverne and Tori. When I first saw Ace's ex, I wouldn't have guessed that he would be her type, because he's nothing like Tori or Laverne. But the ex grills Tori and Laverne about their intentions with Ace. I was proud of Tori for giving answers of substance, because it's a far cry from the beginning of the season where Tori was talking about tapping kidneys. But Laverne's answers tended to be more rooted in the physical. When Tori and Laverne leave, Ace's ex up front says that if Ace wants to be led, Laverne is her guy. But if she wants to lead somebody, then Tori is her guy. And I think I can agree with that, because Tori throughout the entire season really hasn't shown the same level of confidence that Clifton and Demetrius have. In my opinion, Ace would have to be somebody who brings out the best in Tori in order for their potential relationship to thrive. In the next scene, Sabrina has her ex meet Demetrius separately, then meet Donovan and Tori in a group date. When Demetrius comes to visit Sabrina and the ex, it seems like Demetrius and the ex hit it off pretty quickly. We really don't get to see much else happen in their scenes. But when Donovan and Tori meet Sabrina and her ex, Tori didn't even try to fake the funk. Tori felt some type of way about having to compete with Donovan and Demetrius for Sabrina, and I can kind of understand where Tori's coming from. Sabrina is somebody who likes to be chased, and she doesn't care who gets hurt in the process. So while Tori sits quietly and looking like he lost his best friend, Donovan uses the opportunity to swoop in and make a good impression on Sabrina and her ex. When the two men leave, Sabrina's ex shares that he thinks Donovan is the man for her. We then get Tina and her ex meeting Paul and Demetrius. This is pretty much a throwaway scene because Tina and Demetrius never had a strong connection. But when Tina's ex questions Demetrius and Paul, Demetrius' answers seem a bit more rehearsed, while Paul seems more genuine in his responses. When the two men leave, the ex chooses Paul because he seems to be more of an outgoing person. We then see Clifton meeting with Takia and her ex, and we all know that this is a throwaway scene because Takia is more than likely getting voted off next episode. But Clifton uses this opportunity to do whatever he can to make Takia's ex feel uncomfortable and jealous, mainly through his comments towards the ex and his use of physical touch with Takia. When Clifton leaves, the show cuts to commercial before we can get a chance to see what Takia's ex thinks about him. Now the ladies meet up with Nephew Tommy to talk about their dates. But before that happens, Nephew Tommy lets all the ladies know that Eric self-eliminated, and I find it interesting that none of the ladies wanted to question what happened or attempt to get Eric's side of the story. Or maybe they did and production just didn't show it. Either way, there's no reason why this episode couldn't have aired last week. Nevertheless, the ladies picked Laverne and Tori in their bottom, and one interesting part about the elimination process was that Sabrina felt some type of way about Tori kissing Precious because she was the one that kissed Demetrius while making Tori think he was her number one. I think Tori dodged a bullet with this one. But when it's time for elimination, Takia meets up with Tori, they exchange their pleasantries, and she lets Tori know that he's safe from elimination. Then we get Sabrina meeting up with Laverne. But prior to them meeting face to face, Laverne shares in his production interview that he was already tipped off that Tina, Sabrina, and Carmen formed an alliance to get him voted off that evening. So when Laverne and Sabrina meet up face to face, Laverne is already on 10, while Sabrina is trying to find a way to break the news to him. Laverne is acting a fool during this entire scene, and part of me can't really blame him for acting that way, because this is the same foolishness that occurred last season of the show. Then again, Laverne could have been the bigger person and bowed out gracefully. But Laverne is completely disrespectful to Sabrina, and we later learn that Precious tipped him off about what happened. And judging by Sabrina's reaction, there may be some validity to Laverne's claims. But on a scale of 1 to 10, I would give this episode a strong 3. The episode was by far the worst of the season, and the editing was trash, and there's no sense of even having the show if its cast members are going to form cliques to get people voted off. But I wasted my time watching this foolishness so that some of you out there didn't have to do so. And with that comes the end of the video. If you have any comments about the episode or my analysis of it, then feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below, and I'll be sure to reply to each and every one of them. Until next time, stay tuned and stay safe. Peace.